We're interviewing AmberSkies Cosplay. How are you,
Woo!
Amber?
I'm wonderful. Sorry, I'm
We're
trying
interviewing.
to. Oh, there we go. I did the thing we were talking about not doing.
Yep.
See, look at. Oh
I
God,
think
it's
I
up
think we
already.
all did it.
Sorry.
I think we both did that. It's all right. It
I was
happens.
so excited to watch the stream on top
You're
of
like,
being
ooh,
on the
let's see.
stream. I'm like,
Yeah. No, exactly. Exactly. But that's
we
okay.
even had a conversation about this before it started. We're like, Amber, we're not gonna play
We're
the
not gonna
audio
play
twice
the
over.
audio
Echo.
twice. But that's all right. No worries.
That's okay.
It's not like the end of the world. So, Amber, how did you discover cosplaying?
Oh boy. Let's see. I don't know if there's like a formal discovery of cosplay or if it's a thing that just kind of happened over the course of time for me. But I've been obviously one of those kids that was playing dress up since I was little, kind of thing. I was in a lot of like theater shows and acting growing up, so I was on stage a lot in various costumes. So dressing up was not a new concept for me. But I was also raised by my mom and dad, of course. But my dad owned a tabletop miniature gaming store / internet arcade as I grew up. So I grew up surrounded by Warhammer 40K and Magic the Gathering and D&D and like the dawn of World of Warcraft and like all of the tabletop and like beginning of like LAN gaming kind of world was a world that I was just completely raised in. And so being surrounded by all of that nerddom and my dad constantly putting in orders like overseas to get merchandise and stuff kind of introduced me to anime, and then anime and comics and all of those eventually led my dad when I was old enough taking me to Phoenix Comic-Con. And then over the years we were just attendees that went like every year. And as I got older and older, I started to notice all of the cool people in costume and I went, hey, that looks fun. And dad and I are super crazy creative people and we could probably build something. So the idea was kind of planted in my head just being an attendee at Comic-Con. But then my actual start for cosplay, funny enough, wasn't intended to like be a cosplay to wear to Comic-Con. It began for me as a really elaborate Halloween costume, which is a lot of people's gateway drug into cosplay, is just getting out of control on Halloween because Halloween's the best. I mean, here I am like Beetlejuicing it up today because it's every day is spooky day in October.
Of course.
Absolutely.
That's
I know. I've already
Spooktober.
Spooktober. I like that. But yeah, so let's see. That kind of just spiraled from one thing to the next. And I ended up making Sergeant Calhoun from Wreck-It Ralph. And I know that was another one of your questions. What was the first cosplay? And it was an armor build was my very first costume I ever made. Because if you're going to do it, you got to go big or go home.
Yeah,
so I did. And I ended up wearing that to a show. And the response was just crazy. And I fell in love with cosplay. And that was 8 years ago, and a million crazy memories and experiences since.
Wow, that's amazing that only like in the 8 years that you've been cosplaying that you've gone and gathered quite a following. And
it's crazy. Yeah.
And I'm not even gonna ask how many cosplays you've done because I'm sure it's in the hundreds by now.
You'll laugh. It's actually not in the hundreds. Like probably like 100. But some of them are very simple and some of them are a little bit stylized. And I see Blizz in the comments. Hi, Blizz. Shoot, that reminds me I need to figure out my Halloween costume. Yes, you do. Time's running out. It's already October 4th. Get on it.
Yeah. No, it's funny. There was a meme that I saw recently where cosplayers during conventions and they're all like cosplayed out.
Oh, yeah.
And then cosplayers at Halloween, they're like wearing a onesie.
Yep. Yep, that's exactly how it goes. Because your brain is kind of like, oh, why bother at Halloween? There's like normal people, but there's no one to like impress like at a con. So normally Halloween costumes are either something goofy or something comfy.
Yeah. So are you working on some new cosplay plans right now?
I wish I could say I were a little bit harder. I, like everybody else, of course, was like totally kicked in like the pride in the sad gene inside of me with all of this cancelization of everything going on shows wise. So I had a lot of plans and a lot of them are kind of just like on pause right now. It's not that I've quit. It's not that I've like, it's just like on the back burner while I focus on what I can focus on right now. I'm also an artist and a painter on top of cosplay. I actually started off as a painter before any of that ever happened. And I have like an online Etsy store. And when cons are going on, I actually travel around and do all of the artist alleys. I'm an artist alley vendor on top of like being a cosplayer and everything else. So sometimes I'll go to a show and I'll be invited as a cosplay guest. Other times, if I'm not a cosplay guest, I'll purchase a table as a vendor. So one way or another, I end up at the show. So since the dress up portion, the cosplay has kind of like hit a pause button since there are no shows to really wear them to right now.
exactly.
I'm trying to like really focus all my efforts on the art. That way when shows do come back, I can push play on all of those costumes that I had paused on and have a whole new set of art to, you know, vend at the artist alleys. So yes, I do have things that I've been working on, but they've been a little bit simpler than like my big builds that I normally would be working on right about now. Before pandemic world happened, the last thing I had been working on was Abe Sapien from Hellboy.
Okay.
So I love special effects makeup, and so I was making like a full face prosthetic, like big bubbly merman eyes, and
That's cool.
it was crazy. I had like a big breathing apparatus because my whole plan was to go and meet Doug Jones, who plays Abe Sapien as well as many different monster type characters. He was going to be at Phoenix Comic-Con, and so my whole thing was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go impress Dougie. And then the show got canceled and then everything was sad. So we'll continue those later on. But I've been doing like Halloween spooky shoots. And because of my Patreon, I've kept up with like at least one shoot a month, the most that I can. But normally I'm a little more fire under the ass than I am right now to make stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy with all the pandemic and everything. So what do you think about LA hosting a convention in December?
God, it's so hard to say because I, like everybody else, just wants it to happen so desperately.
Yeah.
I go so bad, but is it responsible? Not in the slightest. Is it a good idea? Not at all. So it's hard, and of course I have no room really to say what they should and should not be doing, and it's going to be up to the governor to really like make the final say on that. I applaud them for trying, but I don't think that anybody's ready yet. And that breaks my heart to say that because I want them to come back more than anything. But smaller shows, yes, but on a scale of like 50,000 people right now, that's just going to like re-cause the problem all over again. And the last thing we want to do is go back to ground zero with all of this. And we'd rather just stick it out, get rid of it, and then proceed.
Exactly. So when you do make your cosplays, are you more of a sewer, armor maker, or a wig worker?
Good question. I love wig working. I love armor building. I can sew, but I'm not a seamstress. So I'd say if we were going to rank those things on like strengths to weaknesses, I would say strongest would be armor, second strongest would be wig, and third strongest would be sewing. Can I do all of those things? Yes. But yeah, I love foam. I love glue. I love paint. I love like making something out of nothing. A lot of my cosplaying style comes from repurposing things as well. So if I had to sew a garment, it really had to be my last resort because more than likely I would have already gone to like 14 different Goodwills looking for something similar enough that I could like jerry rig it into working. But you'd never catch me like making a pair of pants from scratch if I could help it or anything like that. Because I'm like, if I could find something that's similar and then jazz it up or change it in some way, I'll use the foundation of another garment before I'll make something from scratch. Because that's just me though. Like I have a sewing machine, I have the capabilities, I'm sure I could figure it out, but it's not my favorite thing to do. Yeah.
So have you been in many cosplay contests, or are you more of a behind the scenes type of thing?
I've not been in a ton of contests, and it sounds kind of like to say it, but the ones that I have been in, I've won, so that's good. I know, I'm very grateful for that. But I go balls to the wall when I'm making something, and if I'm taking the time to compete in it, it's going to be my very damn best I could possibly do. As is everything, I put crazy effort into everything I do, but it's like extra tenfold when it comes to competing. So I have competed at San Diego Comic-Con, and I won the Marvel costume contest for the women's category. Wow. I took Best in Show at D23 Expo, which is the Disney convention, and I made a giant lava monster, which is Takeoff from Moana. So that beat out like a whole bunch of other really talented people. I've taken first in Masters at Phoenix Comic-Con. Again, as other various looks, Sabaton Con. I won one at Long Beach Comic Expo once, but I have the memorabilia in my craft room to kind of like remind me of my days of competing a whole lot. I had a stretch of like 2-3 years in there where I like really liked competing and did it a lot. But now I'm to the point of where I have been asked to be a judge more frequently than I have been to actually compete. So it's been really fun to be on like the other side of the table. And I've gone out to shows in California and helped as like a Masquerade judge.
Nice.
I've done like pretty much all of the shows here in Arizona have asked me to be a judge at some point. Game On Expo and Sabo and down in Phoenix, the Kikori up in Flagstaff, and then down in Tucson, Konnichiwa. There you go. So I've gotten to be a judge and actually helped encourage others to create, which has been a fun transition to go from like the person competing to the person assisting others to be their very best. So that's been fun.
That's pretty cool. So with your photo shoots, are you more on location or do you like to use the green screen effect a lot?
Funny enough, I've never used the green screen effect. Yeah, I am 100% for practical effects, practical locations. A lot of that comes from my go-to photographer as well, who's Tony Julius. He is one of my BFFs, and he's a wedding photographer / very talented photographer in general. And he photographs a lot of the people in Arizona in their cosplays. And he is big on the on-set, or not on set, what am I saying? On location, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Kind of photography. He's only done like 1 or 2 photo shoots with me ever with like a paper backdrop in the background. One of them was the other week, actually, because we couldn't really find a location outside that worked for like a horror shoot. So we did a black paper in the background. But he doesn't Photoshop really any crazy backgrounds or things unless he's doing a composite. And I shoot with Tony the most. And so a lot of my cosplay photography is, you know, we actually found a river and I got in the river, or we went to a forest and I climbed into the trees in the forest. So it's really, really fun to like go on adventures to make the art and costuming come to life that way. I don't know. It makes me like fulfilled and like so excited and giddy as a creator and a lover of all of these shows and these games and whatnot to be like, oh, you know what? The forest spirit would actually be standing in the forest and Nebula would look like she's on a rocky planet. So I have found cool desert scenery, amazing like foliage. And we've even just like gone to, I don't know, we've shot in churches before. We've shot in like libraries. So it's fun to go all over the place and like scope out an area that might make cool images.
Yeah, exactly. So is there a type of character that you like to cosplay frequently?
Like a specific character or like a type of character?
Maybe like a genre.
Like a genre. I don't really focus on one genre necessarily. I obviously do a lot of Disney stuff because that's like a big dumb passion of mine is Disney stuff. Anime.
I don't think it's dumb passion. It's, you know,
it's a big dumb passion. You should see my house. It's like a 4-year-old threw up in it. There's just Disney trash everywhere because I have a lot of fun with it. But yeah, I wouldn't say I really have like one genre in mind. If there's a type, it's the background character. I like the ones where if I'm walking in a con, somebody looks at me and they goes, "Oh, you're up. Oh shoot, what was her name?" And I'm like, yeah. I like the B characters, the B reel of like, there's your main hero, but I like that person in the background. I like that one because I don't know. It's a weird thing of mine. Like that's how Nebula actually started. It was obviously Gamora was the star and Star-Lord and all of them in Guardians of the Galaxy. They were like the heroes. And then I was like, but what about that blue one in the background? She's cool looking. So I don't know. I like the unknown, unsung hero character archetype. Pretty cool.
So do you have a top 3 of your favorite cosplayers?
Favorite cosplayers? Like other cosplayers? Yeah. Oh God. I don't have a top 3 because they're always changing.
They always
and even still, it's not like a favorite. It's just people that I pay a lot of attention to. You and I were chatting before the show started, and we were talking about Little Sparks. Little Sparks is one of my favorite creators, and she's also a friend of mine, so that was really fun. But there's so many types of creators out there. It would be impossible to narrow it down to just 3.
Right,
I have my favorite of the different types of things that I follow on social media. But yeah, I don't have favorite cosplayers really because I know so many incredible ones I couldn't possibly choose.
Right. So what's the most detailed cosplay you've done so far in your career?
Most detailed? That would be Nebula version 2. There's a long story behind that one as well. So Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, she's the sister of Gamora, the daughter of Thanos, the moody blue alien with the purple stripe and the blue bald head. And she's a cyborg. She's amazingly fun to create. And I had made version 1 Nebula simply for enjoyment, but version 1 Nebula brought me some of the most insane opportunities to where version 2 Nebula came into the picture. Marvel actually was seeking out seeking out a Nebula cosplayer to be a part of a YouTube show that they do called Marvel Becoming. So they pluck cosplayers from around the country, they toss them out to LA, and they film them in a film studio, getting ready from start to finish as these iconic Marvel characters for their YouTube channel of like 2 million subscribers. So it's insane. So they contacted me and they were like, hey, we're looking to do a show on Guardians of the Galaxy. You're a Nebula cosplayer. Would you like to come out? And I went, oh, fuck. And then I like got hysterical and I was like, yeah, hello? Like, it's the most amazing thing that's ever going to happen to me ever. Or so I thought. It got more amazing. But the tricky part was they were like, okay. And I was like, when do you want to shoot? And they were like, that's the hard part. We have 3 weeks. And I went, 3 weeks? And they were like, 3 weeks from today, we need to shoot. And then 2 weeks after that, it needs to be edited and finished. So can you come out Easter weekend in 3 weeks? And I had a full-time job as a teacher. So I was like, so I had 3 weeks. And then they went, oh, also, we don't want version 1 of Nebula. We want this new Nebula costume from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 that's going to be released very soon. And I went, huh? And they were like, yeah, you want to do it? And I was like, okay, sure, I'll make it happen. So in 3 weeks, I completely handcrafted from scratch based on stuff that I found, again, at Goodwill, repurposed from absolutely nothing. It was a pile of fabric and like purses and belts and stuff like that to get like the leather scraps.
Yeah.
And I made the red spacesuit of the Ravagers of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I made it to LA on Easter Sunday. We shot all day and I literally left LA at 9 o'clock at night. My dad came with me, drove me 6 hours through the night to get back to Phoenix, and I taught 3rd grade the next morning.
Wow.
That's what happens when you want to follow your dreams.
Teacher's a little tired.
Oh, literally, I was falling asleep, and I was like, we're going to watch movies today by the time
it's going to be a movie day, right?
I literally almost died in the car like 3 times because we had to take turns driving because it was 6 hours from LA starting at 9. We didn't get home until like 3 in the morning. Yeah. I slept for like an hour. I washed all of the paint because I couldn't take a shower. I was in the car. Right. So I still had Nebula painted all over myself. And I woke up and I taught the next day.
Very nice.
It was incredible. And that was the most detailed and crazy thing I think I've ever done for cosplay.
I think that's the top like hashtag life of a cosplayer, right there.
Oh my God. But when like the gods of your entertainment industry, like literally when Marvel themselves is like, hey, will you do this? You're like, my answer is going to be yes. How I'm going to do that, I have not figured out that yet, but I will do whatever you ask. So, and that opened the door to some more really crazy, cool opportunities to work with Marvel again and again in the future, all because of Nebula. So she's my homegirl. She has made some crazy shit happen.
Well, that's good. So when you're making your cosplays, there's lots of tips that you've learned and everything like that. What would be your top 3 craftsmanship tips?
Craftsmanship tips. Oh boy. Let's see. Unless you're competing, no one will know what your seams and your finishes of how you put that costume together look like. So if you are like the night before the show and you're in tears because let's say your entire sleeve falls off and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's 3 a.m. The show's tomorrow. I'm going to die. Well, guess what? You're not going to die. It's okay. There's this thing called hot glue. Like literally don't be ashamed to make it work however you need to make it work. Because again, unless you're competing and somebody's got your sleeve and they're looking at the stitches and flipping it up and down, no one's ever going to know besides you. So I would say number 1, make it happen however you need to make it happen. Number 2, remember this is supposed to be fun. That's something I have to like remind myself about cosplay is when you get too stressed out or too caught up in the nitty gritty, like remember that this is for enjoyment. Like literally you're just a bunch of adults running around playing dress up. It is okay if it's not perfect.
Exactly.
And let's see, craftsmanship tips. Always wear protective equipment. That's extremely important. Like literally some glues and some serums and some things, particularly coming from the perspective of an armor maker, which we talked about how that's like my main thing that we do. Some of those things can truly poison you, even if they seem innocent enough. I have been naughty about that. And I have given myself like multiple days long headaches before because I was using like barge cement, which is like this big thing of like permanent cement used to fix shoes. It's like an industrial adhesive. And I was naughty and didn't listen to my own advice. And I was making it in my living room with not a lot of airflow and not a lot of things. And all of a sudden my eyes rolled back in my head and I was like, why do I feel funny? And then I literally like made myself woozy because I was puffing fumes for like a couple of hours. And I was like, oh my God, I'm stupid. Why did I not listen to my own advice? And so I would say, yeah, don't ever work in an enclosed space, such as a garage or a living room if you're using dangerous chemicals. And be smart about how you craft and like read the safety, because your health is more important than that thing that you're working on.
So do you have a favorite cosplay you've done?
Let's see, I'd probably just say Nebula because all of the aforementioned reasons.
Exactly.
And then all of the cool
That's what
things
got
that
you
came after
like your start. In the
Which is funny because it was not one of my first costumes, but it is the one that has brought me the farthest. I would have never ever in my life expected to have done some of the stuff that costume has brought my way.
So I'm sure in the 8 years you've cosplayed, you have lots of horror stories of cosplay where it's just like, oh my gosh, the costume falls apart, or you're in a weird, awkward situation. What is one of your favorite like horror stories?
Okay, so let's see, horror story. We'll go back to Teika, which was the lava monster that I was talking about when I made, and I won Best in Show at D23 in that. Well, the story behind how I even got to that point was nightmare fuel, because so this comes back to how I love Disney with all of my heart, right? I love Disney with all my heart. But sometimes they are Disney and they have so much to think about and so much to organize for an enormous event such as D23 that they sometimes miss like the fine details of things. However, I was the unfortunate recipient of one of those like missed the memo kind of situations and regarding call time with Disney when it came to the masquerade that day. So I had worked for months to build this costume. I had partnered up with another friend of mine, Sunchild Cosplay. Her name is Summer. So it was the two of us as Tefiti, which was the lava goddess, who was the good version, and Teika, which was me, which was her evil side. So we were entering the category of heroes and villains because the way that the masquerade is broken up, it's in 5 different categories depending on what type of characters that you're cosplaying as. So we were heroes and villains category, right? Over the course of the months getting ready for the show, you of course had to apply. You went through like a super strict application process. They weeded people out because there are so many applicants and only so many slots to actually perform on stage. Well, we had gotten accepted, me and my teammate had, and we were like, woo! So we drew up all these like reference pictures and we were taking photos as we were crafting to prove that we were getting the costume done. And finally Disney was like, you're green lighted, we'll see you there. And I went, fantastic. So pretty much up until the night before I was supposed to leave for California, I was still working on this costume because there were thousands of little LEDs and little pieces of foam because I was making myself look like I was covered in lava and it was a bodysuit and all this crazy stuff. We get to California. My teammate and I are sleeping in 2 different hotels because she was with her family. I was with my family. We had just gone to all support each other. And she and I somehow didn't communicate what time we were supposed to meet up in the morning. We were there, we were done, and the show wasn't until 3 p.m. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just roll up to the show. I'll go and we'll get there really early and we'll just ask them where we're supposed to go. I'll come in costume. It'll be great. So I roll awake in the hotel the morning of the costume contest. It's like 7 a.m. And again, the show's not till 3 p.m. And I get a phone call from my teammate. And I'm in my pajamas in the hotel and I'm like, good morning. Are you so excited today? She goes, where are you? And my heart falls out of my ass. And I go, what do you mean, where am I? I'm in the hotel. And she's like, Amber, we have to be in judging in 15 minutes. And I shut down.
Right.
I start bawling hysterically. I'm screaming, what are you talking about? She goes, didn't Disney send you the email? And I go, what email?
Right.
So long story short, Disney, upon the approval process of our costumes, called my teammate, the captain of the team, and they didn't even have my information in their system at all. So I received no communication, no phone calls, no emails, no nothing, other than my teammate saying, yay, we got it, we're in. Well, they, of course, had sent the show information to my teammate. My teammate assumed that I had gotten the emails like I was supposed to. And Disney never sent me one piece of communication as to when the show actually began that day. So if it were not for my fiance and my family being like, we don't have time to cry, get in the fucking car.
Right, exactly.
They're picking up pieces of my costume. Like, it's everywhere. There's mountaintops all over the place, and we're sprinting to the car. We drive to the convention center, which thankfully is like 5 minutes down the street. I'm hysterical. I'm not even dressed. Like, literally, I'm just in my pajamas and crying in the car. And it's 15 minutes until judging time. And we drove to the parking structure. And mind you, this is Disney, so Disney people are crazy. And the line to get into the con is already wrapped like 3 times around the building, and it doesn't even open until 10. So this is 7 a.m. and people are already lined up outside to get into the convention center to see this show. So we drive to the parking structure. Every single tier of the 7-story parking structure is full, except for one space on the roof. We get that one space on the roof of the parking structure. I throw the bodysuit on. I'm naked, right? I'm naked on top of this parking structure in Arizona or in Anaheim. And I was like, this is insane. So we're running as fast as we possibly can. We run past thousands of people in line. My family's running behind me with the costume. And we get to the very front door, and there's, of course, a security guard there. And he's like, all right, what you doing? And we were like, we're here for the costume contest. He goes, you're really late. And I went, yeah, I know. And he goes, okay, go. And he lets us cut in front of the thousands of people. We sprint in. We run past security. There's like all sorts of like metal detectors and stuff. And we're like, and they're like, that way. So we're running, and literally we got there with 2 minutes to spare.
Wow.
And all of these women and men that had been dressed for hours, I guess the call time to be in that room ready to go was 5:30 in the morning. So these people had been there since 5:30 in the morning, sitting in this waiting room. And I run in, still half in pajamas, pulling my mask over my face. And everyone's looking at me like, wow, this hoe doesn't even know what time the show starts. And I'm like, and so this was my first time, of course, competing at a Disney show, so I had no idea what to expect. We get there, we go back to judging. I hadn't eaten. I was like still wiping tears from my eyes, and we go back for our judging. And I guess that was our pre-judging. That was the judges wanted to see everything before the actual show began. So once I got over the shock factor of the biggest scare of my life, because literally if I hadn't been there, they would have just disqualified our team, and that would have been it.
Yeah.
And all of those months of work would have been for nothing. So yeah, long story, but Disney didn't send me an email. I almost missed the whole damn contest. I made an embarrassment of myself in front of all of the other contestants by showing up 3 minutes before go time. And we still won Best in Show.
You still won Best in Show.
Which is embarrassing because all of those people were probably looking at me like, really? She couldn't even read basic directions and she beat us all. And we've been here since 5:30 in the morning. And I felt really guilty about that. But yeah, high five to all of the awesome contestants of D23 Expo 2017 because yeah, it was insane. It was the coolest, and I don't think I ever want to relive that feeling ever again in my life.
Yeah.
Because I drove all that way from Arizona. I paid money to stay in that hotel. I bought my ticket. I did all of that stuff, and I literally was this close to blowing the entire thing.
Yeah.
But it was Disney's fault.
That you didn't.
You know the sad part too? The worst part is when the contest was over and we had won and we go out on stage and they put you up on the big projector screen. There's thousands of people watching. There's people online. Yeah, we're clapping. I'm there as Takon. I'm like, rah, I'm doing the monster thing. My friend is Tafiti. And the names appear up on the screen as the winners. And it says, Sunchild Cosplay and Friend.
Oh. Wow.
So I was and friend because they still didn't get my information.
They still didn't get your information. That is messed up.
They didn't even know who I was at the end of everything. So that makes me laugh to this day because now me and Summer are like, hey, and friend. And I'm like, what's up? Wow. So yeah, I'm the and friend. I didn't even get my name up on the screen after all was said and done. But what can you do?
Hey, what can
we
you
won,
do,
and that's all that matters. Yeah. And I got a really pretty trophy, and that was the coolest thing ever. So sorry, that was a very long-winded story, but that was the biggest disaster that's ever happened to me in costume.
Yeah. So do you have a funny cosplay story?
Countless.
Even
countless.
though that
There's
was
been so many funny moments. That was pretty funny in hindsight. Yeah, I'll laugh about it now, but that was probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
I think your heart was like,
oh my God. I like right now I have anxiety just retelling you the story. My heart's like racing and I'm like, oh my God, never again.
I'm going to give her 150.
I'm such a freak about details now. I'm like, and what time does it start? And what time do you want me there? And what time does it start?
Oh yeah, because you don't want to be late ever again because it's horrible being late.
Yeah, because I'm not a person that's normally late, especially to important
Yeah.
things. I'm always one that's there early. So the fact that I almost missed it was awful.
Yeah, nerve-wracking, yeah.
I was gonna say, so funny. Oh God. See, there's so many too. I had the chance to meet Karen Gillan before, who is the actress, of course, that plays Nebula, most notably known from her stint in Doctor Who.
Yep.
But yeah, Karen's a sweetheart, and so she and I have met each other like 3 or 4 times over the course of shows and running into each other at events and stuff. And so I have a hilarious set of photos of me and Karen because we joke, and I'm like, and she's like, hey, sister. So whenever she sees me again now, we always take like the most hilarious pictures together. And I have some of us like holding hands and like leaping in the air all like derpy style, and then like making silly faces at the camera and stuff. So whenever there's like a photo opportunity with Karen, I have some pretty hilarious ones of her and me as Nebula and just regular Karen. So those are fun memories.
That's cool. So what is the best in-character interaction that you've had?
In-character interaction. Well, I always like to be in character as I'm cosplaying because it just kind of like adds to the magic effect. Regarding Disney, it's always really funny when I'm dressed as like a bad guy or Sergeant Calhoun, and I can just be mean to people and they eat it up and love it. So Calhoun is bossy, and she's essentially like a military sergeant. And so people will be like, can I get a... I'm like, all right, rookie, fall in line. And they're like... So I can be slightly sassy to people as a bad guy or a sassy character, and they always think that's pretty funny. So
have you ever cosplayed with a family member?
I have. Yeah, my dad, who we've been talking about here, he's pretty damn goofy, and pretty much most of my personality comes from him. And so he had the idea that we should dress up as King Arthur and Patsy from from Monty Python,
your Holy Grail.
And so Dad literally has a ginormous backpack full of like travel gear and stuff, and I like made like a gender bent like King Arthur with like a crown and all of this ridiculous tunic covered in gems. And we tromp around San Diego Comic-Con doing the whole skit, and he actually has dried out coconuts that he made.
Like, did he have the coconuts? Yeah.
Oh, yes, he's got the coconuts. And the people that will die laughing, particularly at San Diego Comic-Con, because it's an older audience of people at San Diego Comic-Con. They've been going for 50 years. And literally crowds of like thousands of people, when they hear the coconuts and I go, make way, they'll just part. They'll move. And we can get through crowds of people. And there's people taking pictures, and they're dying, and they're like, yeah! So King Arthur and Patsy is a very big hit at large shows.
Nice.
And we'll get through crowds, and they'll move for us. They'll just they'll move out of the way there. I'm like, pardon me, horse. And people are like, oh. And then they see it's my dad with the freaking coconuts, and they're like, oh my God. So yeah, there's some hilarious moments of King Arthur and Patsy.
Nice. So what are your go-to stores for your cosplay materials or full-on cosplays? I don't know if you've ever bought a full-on cosplay from someone.
I've bought like base costumes, and then I just altered the crap out of it sometimes. Often, but like I said, I'm a huge thrifter, so I'll go to Goodwill, I'll go to Savers, I'll dig through my own closet, I'll steal clothes from other people. I like the challenge of changing one thing into another thing, so I frequent a lot of thrift stores when I'm in the process of making things. So when it comes to like foam and whatnot, like, because obviously you need to like go and buy foam, and very recently they've started to like have cosplay materials readily available at like Michael's and Joann's, which is totally crazy that we've now entered the world where like cosplay is so mainstream that you can just get that at a regular craft store now. Like Yaya Han has like a whole line of EVA foams and fabrics, which is so exciting for her to have branded herself in that way and making it more readily accessible. But before you could just go into a Joann's and buy foam, I would just have to like look online. There's one called TNT Cosplay Supply and cosplaysupplies.com. So like you can pretty much go anywhere anymore and online purchase what you need, glues and paints and whatever wise. But I'm also currently sponsored by a really amazing company called Plaid Crafts. They sent me a whole line of paint called Cause Effects. Oh, wow. And it's paint that is meant to be painted onto armor. So the issue with painting acrylic paint onto foam armor is the flexibility issue.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to paint something flat and then try to bend it, all of the paint would like snap and get destroyed. But this has like silicone inside of it, this paint does. So
Wow.
it's meant to bend and flex with the armor. So for years, cosplayers have been trying to like mix with glue and mix with different things to try and make this type of paint. So you could paint it onto a round piece of armor, and even if your arm is bending and it's right here, the paint doesn't crack and get destroyed with all your hard work. And little Sparks can probably attest to that's one of the biggest pains in the ass of foam armor is the wear and tear that goes into it. So yeah, Plaid came out with this amazing line of costume paint for armor makers, and it's really awesome, and I use that a lot too.
Nice. So do you think the cosplay world is getting a little too saturated, that like there are so many cosplayers that this is like it's hard to really get a start into cosplay?
Never, because there's never enough of it. We have this thing, and it's not just me, it's anyone who's been around in the cosplay world for a while now, is that anyone can cosplay and everyone can cosplay. When it comes to making a career out of cosplay, I can tell you right now, with everything that I just described to you and all of the cool accomplishments that I've had, I still have not made a career out of cosplay. I have a day job, I have my side hustles, I have 9 different things I'm doing at any different point to try and keep myself afloat and pay my rent. So there is a very, very small market of cosplayers who have actually monetized to the point of where they can make a living out of it. And it usually just comes from a social media presence. It comes from ad revenue. It comes from subscription services like Patreon or OnlyFans. But like, that's a very small percentage of people that can actually make it. You have to have a pretty large pre-existing fan base in order to just live on cosplay.
Such as
even guest
Jessica
appearances.
Negri, or Kara Nicole as well.
Yeah, Kara Nicole, Jessica Negri, I was gonna say Nicole Marie Jean. Like there's a handful of them out there, and you can probably follow them all on Instagram right now, and you probably already do follow them on Instagram. But a very small percentage of them can do one thing and make a living out of it. Jessica is the very rare exception to that rule. She's also the nicest person ever. So it's like there's a small percentage of people that can make it in that way. But if you go into cosplay with the idea of I want to make stuff that I love, and I want to meet people that love what I love, and I just want to dance around and have fun, then you're going to succeed. Because if you go in to try and make money, you're not going to enjoy yourself. If you go in to try and like get famous and get cos famous and all this stuff, there's no such thing as that. Like there's just social media and there's influencers, and that exists in the world. But if you go into it for the right reasons, which so many people have now, and because it is becoming so mainstream and acceptable and loved, then the more the merrier. Like, come on in. You will always find somebody to cosplay with you, to love what you love and be a part of it with you. But just remember to not beat yourself up if you're not a world famous cosplayer, because there are not that many of them. And it's okay. It's like A-list celebrities. Like not everybody can be a famous movie star, but there can be a lot of people who love acting.
Yeah, it's like for you like to look at the B actors, not the and everything.
Exactly. And it's like, yes, I've built a following for myself, and a lot of that has just been pure dumb luck and getting shared by the right people. Like Jessica has shared my stuff a couple of times, and that's been how my numbers have become what they've been over the years. But really, social media is just imaginary numbers at the end of the day. So it's gets you places, but it's not everything that there is in the world. Because if you don't have any joy behind what you're doing, then what are you in it for?
Exactly. And
it's going to be work as opposed to enjoyment.
Exactly. And when I interview like cosplayers who are just getting started or anything, and they're like, why do you want to interview me? I'm like, you're a cosplayer. You enjoy what you're doing. I want to interview you, and because we all need to get our start somehow. And and if you want to make it a career, then you have to put in the work. You have to be out there, getting your name out there. You work hard for a really long time, and then that's the hard part. Just like acting, even if you work hard for a really long time and you do everything right, it still just might not be your time, and that's fine. So just keep on. But what's thankful? What's thankful? What is nice about being a cosplayer is really if you're a good person and you are helpful and you're encouraging and you are willing to put in the work and you're willing to volunteer your way to the top. Literally, cons in Arizona or pretty much anyone around here, they'll know you.
They'll get to know you. They'll see that you want to be a part of it. They'll keep you involved. And you might even, if you're not a cosplayer necessarily, you might work for one of the shows here, like for Sabaton or for, Phoenix Comic Con. They're always taking volunteers and they're always looking for panelists. They're looking for people to enrich the program. So if you go in saying you should make me a cosplay guest, but you don't have anything to give, if you don't have anything to give, then they're like, oh, okay, well, thank you. Get in line with everybody else that wants to be a cosplay guest, because you need to provide a service in order to earn your way into positions like that. So like becoming a masquerade judge, like I was talking about, I did panels for years. I volunteered for years. I would walk around the artist alley floor and walk around the vendors floor asking the vendors if they needed anything. And they were like, do you work for the show? And I'm like, no. And they were like, oh, well, I could use a water. And I'm like, okay, I'll go find one for you. Like, just being helpful and trying to add to the enjoyment of the experience speaks wonders about your character. And the con directors and the people that are in charge of those sort of things, they all pick up on your character. And that's more important than any sort of social media following you have. If you're a good person, then they'll want you to be a part of what they're making.
Yeah, it was funny when, I went to Fan Fusion and I did Sabaton Con.
I was gonna say, I miss Fan Fusion, by the way. Rest in peace, Fan Fusion.
Yeah.
Fan Fusion, you guys, was the wintertime show of Phoenix Comic Con. I miss it very much, and I wish they'd bring it back someday. But
and so whereas I was in a cosplay contest, and then after that, I went to another convention, and they're like, "Oh, hey, I remember you from Fan Fusion." I'm like, "Wait,
exactly."
What? Like, how do you remember me? That's crazy.
They remember. And like as a judge now, I've seen so many people, and I'll see them come through my masquerade line again, and I'm like, "Oh, you're the one! Oh my god!" And they're like, "You remember?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was the judge at that one. I remember you from this one. I love what you did." Oops, I did the thing again. Sorry with the volume. I hit the space bar and it unmuted me.
It happens. It's all good. So, have you ever been mistaken as a different character while in cosplay?
Oh yeah, all the time.
I was gonna say, like, when you cosplay for, so many outfits, you're gonna get mistaken.
Oh yeah, all the time. I was gonna say, mostly it's just for people that might not know that character's name. So the amount of times that I've been dressed as Nebula, and I'll just go, hey!
And you're like, whatever.
I just let them have it. I'm like, they know what they're saying. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I do a tuxedo mask from Sailor Moon. It's a gender bent tuxedo mask from Sailor Moon. And it looks very much like Zatanna from like the DC universe. And people are like, Zatanna! And I'm like, sure.
Sure. Whatever you want to do.
The ones that I don't like though are when people are creeps. Whenever I wear Sonic the Hedgehog, there's this one gross moment. I remember a guy at Phoenix coming up behind me, also don't sneak up behind people, as Sonic the Hedgehog. And he like puts his hand on top of my head, like in between my ears, and starts like scratching my head and goes, "Ooh, purr for me, kitty."
Wow.
And I was like, "Excuse you?" And he was like, "You're a cat, right?" And I was like,
no.
Get the fuck away from me.
Right, exactly.
And my family was like, whoa, go away. Who the hell? So there are some people that get a little wasty at cons sometimes. And they make some poor choices, or sometimes they just go in with ill intent. But don't touch people, kids. Don't touch people.
No, that's why the cosplay community had to come up with that campaign, is cosplay doesn't equal consent. Just cosplay because a girl's just because a girl is dressed all risque doesn't give you the right to touch them.
Right, of course not. And it's not even like risque for the point of being risque. It's like that's how the character was designed.
That's what it is. That's the costume.
Girl, and the costume has a giant cutout in the chest region. That doesn't mean you can go bazinga. Look at those. And they're like, "Hi, it's Power Girl." Yeah, I'm cosplaying Power Girl. Thank you. Please stop.
No, I was talking with Kara Nicole over at she was over at a comic book store for free comic book day. She's like, I don't know how many times guys just come up to me and just like, I'm like, come on, But that's sad that we have to have that.
She's like, yes, this is what I look like, but guess what? There's more to it than what this looks like. Like you can look, that's what they're there for, but then look up here and say, hey, Kara, I really like your work. Like there's a difference between ogling and like appreciating what somebody looks like. So,
exactly.
I mean, Kara wouldn't put herself in a position to like be admired if she didn't want to be admired. She does. But it's like don't be gross about it.
What shocks me is she actually ran for Senate. So
I know it's the craziest thing.
Like,
Oh
Okay,
my God.
that's
I remember
cool.
seeing all that on the news, and I remember seeing that, and I was like, girlfriend, like,
Like, be prepared for a slew of news.
oh man, what a cool
Yeah.
person.
No, yeah, it's
Kara,
awesome.
Kara.
So do you mostly cosplay solo or do you like to do in a group, cosplay ever?
I like to group up with people that do other characters in the same series as
Hmm.
me. I've been a part of group cosplays a lot, but with group cosplays, unless you really know and really trust the person, comes a lot of stress at the same time
Right.
too. Because if you're competing at something and there's 6 people in that costume group, well, that's 6 people that you got to coordinate with and make sure that everyone's actually done. And that,
Yep.
unlike me, that didn't get the email from Disney, is actually there on time to be able
Right.
to compete and do all of that stuff. So it's just keeping track with a lot of different people. The larger your group, the more stressed out you're going to be, like organizing it, unless
Yeah.
there's somebody else who's the ringleader and reeling everybody else in. But I think group
Right.
cosplay is a lot of fun. I've been a part of a lot of groups before. I
Nice.
probably would say that I cosplay equal amounts my own stuff and then others as well. So it's
Yeah.
fun to like find 2 parts of like a whole character set or whatever. So
Nice.
if there's 2 like heroes in a story, it's always fun to have both of them and to find somebody else who wants to be the other.
Of course. So what's the biggest con that you've cosplayed at?
San Diego, San
San
Diego
Diego.
Comic Con.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
I
everybody's dream to go over
I
there. This is
know.
like
I know. It was my
so
bucket list
expensive.
item for the longest time. It was just something I thought, oh, maybe someday I'll go. And it's everyone's gonna be like mad at me for it. But you usually when people want to go to San Diego Comic Con, they have to try for years. So
Hmm.
like, because there's like a ticket lottery system, and there's like an enormously small percentage chance that you'll actually be entered into the waiting room to like possibly buy a ticket for maybe one of the days. It's not like you could just go in and get a full event pass, because it is the largest comic convention in the world and the most populous and the most expensive. Like, it
Yep.
is the mecca of cons.
Yes.
And my very first time, I tried putting my family and myself in for the ticket lottery. We got them the very first time we tried. So we
Hey,
planned our family
lucky.
vacation. It was extremely lucky. We planned our family vacation for all of us to go to San Diego, and we
Nice.
did. I think the first year though, we only ended up getting tickets for Thursday and Sunday, which
Yeah.
happened pretty frequently because Friday and Saturday are the collector's days. So if
Mhm.
anyone's waiting in that waiting room, they're usually like a toy sniper or something like that, and they
Mhm.
just want to go to buy the merchandise and then flip them online, which is
Yeah.
kind of a bummer, but whatever.
I
Um,
don't understand that. It's just like
the the,
why
the
do you
toy
want to do that?
market and the collector's market is insanity, and there are people that will go bazonkers just to get a hold of that one thing because they know they can charge $500 on eBay for it.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so we got in the very first time that we tried. And then every year after that, once you get your ticket once, you have a chance to go into like a pre-lottery. So you have 2 opportunities to buy tickets as opposed to like one for the general public. You get a much higher percentage chance to be able to come back the next year because you already attended. So
Yeah.
that's why people that have been attending for 45 years, they have to go every year so they can get
Mhm.
back into the ticket system, so they can guarantee to go every year, because you're not promised to have the chance to go even the next year. And there are
Yeah.
some people who have been going for 45 years and then all of a sudden don't get their ticket because it's become so popular. I
Yeah.
actually heard of a gentleman who had been attending for like 45 years, and he pitched a fit and was like, he was of course, an older person. He had been going for it ever since
Yeah.
it started, since the first show up until that point.
Right.
And he messaged the people at the con and was like, I have been attending your show for 45 years and I'm trying to understand technology in your waiting room, and I wasn't able to acquire a ticket. And they literally got him a badge to be able to go
Nice.
to continue his winning streak. So they're really amazing people over at San Diego Comic-Con, and they will really accommodate for folks that can't get a ticket. But because of that, I managed to go to San Diego back to back for 5 years in a row. So
Nice.
that was where a lot of these cool opportunities came from. This year, of course, I chose not to renew my ticket, which was crazy because I was planning on going to like Dragon Con or some other big show.
Mhm.
And then the pandemic happened, so it didn't end up going on anyway.
Right,
So I
exactly.
gave up my ticket slot to let somebody else have that opportunity since I had already gone a whole lot.
Yeah.
And then it got canceled. So
So speaking of the pandemic, what have you been doing, like, because you're not going to conventions, you're not doing anything,
yeah.
I see that you're streaming more. You're streaming more.
Yeah. So
World of
streaming
Warcraft
was
and-
yes. Streaming was the thing that was one of my passions that I like kind of like started this year. I had been meaning for many years now to actually take up Twitch streaming. It's just always been a thing where I'm like, oh, I'll do it eventually. Well, now I have this big, amazing computer and all of these lights and all of this stuff. And I've like worked really, really hard to get to this point and to be able to do this. I stream 4 days a week here on Twitch, and that's really cool. all sorts of things. I'm a variety streamer, so I do crazy body paints. I just did Madame Leota from the Haunted Mansion the other night as a body paint.
Nice.
We play World of Warcraft. We do Among Us. I just played through Spyro the Dragon, and now we're doing the second one. So I do a little bit of gaming, a little bit of art, and a little bit of community time every single week. And we've built a fun little family on Twitch so far. So that's been how I've been keeping really busy.
So also, you said you still have your day job. So are you still teaching? Or?
To an extent, and that's what's really hard about this now is I thought 2020 was gonna be like my year. I was like gonna do the con circuit. I was gonna work at all the Artist Alley booths. I was gonna like make it big and do my art thing. And then of course that slate got wiped clean. Didn't expect that, so I actually took a leave of absence from my teaching job to do the cons. Now there are no cons, so I'm left with all of this time on my hands and a need for money. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do now? So I actually took up pretty much, it was the birth of Twitch, and it was me pushing my Etsy store really, really hard. And I'm also doing tutoring on the side now to kind of fill in the monetary gap from having a full-time job to having no job at all to, oh God, now just doing a whole bunch of gigs to try and make it through pandemic and then have my shows come back. And then I will live my art dreams. Like
it's true, because a lot of professional cosplayers, they were banking on the conventions for their income. And so they're like, oh, great. Now what?
Yeah.
You know?
And like you mentioned, I was gonna say I would consider myself a professional artist and cosplayer because I do wall murals, I do like commissioned canvas pieces, I do digital drawings, I do emotes for Twitch, like I do digital art and traditional art, and on top of all of that is my cosplaying. So between my Patreon, my Etsy, my Twitch, I have all these different avenues of creativity funds coming in. That's what's had to kind of like tide me over until the big shows come back, and then I can have my Artist Alley tables back and I'll feel much more comfortable as a creator. But we're making it happen somehow. I'm trying my damnedest. So what else can you do?
So what do you think is the future of conventions? Do you think we're going to be like having a lottery system because there's only a certain amount of people that are going to be allowed to go be attending? Or do you think they're just going to be like, all right, we're going to mask up, we're going to practice social distance, and yeah, good job?
I think it'll mask up, social distance, and they'll have to cap attendance. But what I'm afraid for is, I said this at the very beginning of pandemic, and I would talk to my friends and my people about it, and I was like, do you guys think that this is the end of celebrity meet and greets? Because if you think about it now, those celebrities that were coming to do these shows, even if they were B or C or D list celebrities, they weren't really relying on the money. They didn't need to do this. They were doing it to connect with their fans for enjoyment because they had downtime, like especially giant celebrities like, Chris Evans when he goes to shows, or Jason Momoa, like they don't need con money. That's not a thing that they need to survive. So it's like, have we, because of this sickness, reached the end of the era for celebrity meet and greets, especially for the elderly? I am so sad to think that elderly creators or icons of Comic-Con or icons of pop culture, like my mind immediately goes to how this last year, not this past year, but I believe the year before, Tim Curry came to Comic-Con, and I got the opportunity to meet him. And I said to myself, I don't care how much money it costs, I might not ever get the chance to see this man again.
Yeah,
ever.
Exactly.
Because A, he's very ill, and B, he's very elderly. Like this could be the end of his life in general. Like this could be his last hurrah on planet Earth. So I'm going to go meet him. But now with all of this going on, I'm like, holy shit, I'm so happy I did when I did. Like when I could go and see Stan Lee, and I went and did all of the Marvel stuff, when I could go and see Tim Curry, like all of these, like Dick Van Dyke, like I've met so many older people doing the con circuit that are they not, and their teams and their families going to say it's not worth it anymore. You're going to get sick. And that's a very distinct possibility that we could have met the end of the celebrity meet and greet, especially on a scale as large of like an A-list celebrity coming. And I mean, if you think about it, Jason Momoa, and like, I don't know, my brain just goes to them for some reason, but it's like big stars are hugging people. Is that a good idea for them? Absolutely, it's not a good idea for them. Anymore. So they might not even think that it's worth it anymore. So we might have met the end of big stars coming to shows because of the crowd draw that it would bring and risk factor of touching that many people. They might just, think it's worth their health risk, and I wouldn't blame them for it. So it's crazy, and I'm looking back and I'm so sad.
Or we might have a vaccine and we finally get
yeah. But then of course, like, you know, like even with like this strain of illness, is that now a fear though?
Yeah.
Is that now a thing that's in their minds and in their team's minds of like, okay, yes, this was, you know, COVID, but is there another thing that's going to get you sick?
COVID
Is there another
20,
thing that's going to
21?
Oh God, I hope not. But you know what I mean? Like that, this is just health-wise, this is not a thing that people have really thought about before up until now. You've thought about it, but it hasn't been at like the forefront of your mind.
No,
and now it's at the forefront of everybody's mind. So it's like, what's it going to look like?
Right.
I can't really say.
Yeah, when you look at China and they're always wearing a mask, you know, no matter wherever they go, they're wearing a mask all the time. Our mask is going to be the biggest thing now. That's
right.
You know, that's going to be hard.
You can only hope that people will be responsible enough in the future to where if you are feeling ill, just stay home, or just out of courtesy put on a mask. Not because you're mandated to, but out of courtesy and care, you will try to keep yourself under wraps.
It's hilarious.
It's going to be a social experiment for the United States for sure.
Yeah, I was over at Spirit Halloween store just the other day, and they had a sign that says 166 people only allowed in the store, and I'm like, how do you know? You're not going click, click, click.
Some stores, they have somebody standing there like, you know, plus minus to keep track of how many people are actually in there, but some places. So
so I'm like, how do you tell? And then even inside the store, there were people with their masks pulled down. I'm like, oh, come on, man, just pull it up.
The amount of people that I have
pretend
seen
you're a Mortal
wearing
Kombat
a mask,
character,
I'm like,
man.
oh my God. Yeah, I know everyone looks like a Mortal Kombat character.
Just
like everyone
pretend.
is so hot in the mask. Wear a mask. You look hot. You look like a Mortal Kombat character.
Yeah, there you go. You look cool. You look cool, man.
You look so cool. Wow, look at you. You look like a ninja. It's awesome.
So what type of panels do you run when you were at conventions?
Like crafting panels. I've done a lot of like body positivity. I've done like LGBT panels. I've done armor building, resin work. I did one before at an anime con that was subbed versus dubbed anime. So
nice.
it was like a literal debate with like two different sides on like two different podiums of like passionately fighting as to which is better, subbed or dubbed anime. Right. So I've done some very silly stuff in the past, but
it's fun.
Kind of depends on whatever they want from me. So depends on what kind of show it is.
So do you think that with conventions going virtual, is that a good idea, or do you think they're just trying too hard?
I don't think they're trying too hard. I think they're trying their best. I think they're trying to come up with some sort of replacement for in-person shows, and they just can't be replaced. I really applaud anybody who's given a virtual con a try, but really that's no different than like clicking a link on a website. So I've been asked to be a part of virtual cons over the course of all of this happening, and I've been hesitant. I just nothing's gonna be like an in-person show. And like when I have all of my products sat out in front of me and I can talk to you and I can tell you about what I made, the people are gonna come because they want to A, see me, and B, see my work. And they can see me virtually online anytime they want to. They can see my work virtually anytime that they want to online. So a virtual con, I didn't really see benefiting me in my position in any way, especially since I'm already online so much. I'm streaming all the time. I'm making art all the time. So it would just be one more thing to add to my plate that wouldn't be much different than what I'm already doing. So yeah.
No, yeah, I've seen some virtual cons where the guest cosplayer goes on and she or he are just sitting there waiting for questions to come on to the chat window, and just like they're just like, oh, that's not good for your brand.
It's hard though. I mean, and really being online and like live interviewing is stuff that really, I mean, some people might just not be good at that. And then they're put on the spot. And so, yeah, I don't know. Virtual cons, people are trying. They're desperately grabbing at straws for like any sort of anything, but might not be the best.
So what's your favorite part about cosplaying? I don't know if you touched on this throughout the interview, but
I love interacting with people. I love bringing something to life that they already love. I love little children running up to me and screaming, Elsa! Like, because they believe that I am that character. And really, the cosplay and the fun of cosplay comes from the people for me. And I know that it's for myself, and I love the crafting and I love the enjoyment of making it, but my joy comes from actually getting to put on that piece of art that I spent all that time and effort making, and just that showcase of like, look what I did. I made this myself, because I make everything myself. So it's my chance to parade around like a peacock with my feathers out.
Nice.
Like, look what I did. So that's what brings me the most joy, and then people's reaction to what I made.
So have you ever cosplayed for your kids in school? For your kids?
I have actually.
I was gonna say you probably have done that a couple times.
For Halloween, I've worn some fun stuff before. There was a Disney Princess Day at school. Like, it was one of those like student government holidays, and they were like, it's Disney Princess Day, so everyone wear a Disney prince or princess outfit. And I showed up in a full ball gown to school.
Nice.
There's people that like wore Disney princess like t-shirts and stuff, and then I showed up in like a 9-hoop skirt, and I'm like, hello. And they were like, oh my god. So I was like your neighborhood Miss Frizzle.
You're right.
You never know what I'm going to show up to school wearing or doing. So
Miss Frizzle, that's hilarious. Yeah. No, I actually had a history teacher. He always dressed up like historical characters whenever he was talking about his history and everything. So, it seemed like that type of teacher where you would dress up for your kids. Nice. So, like everything, there's a good and there's a bad to everything. So what are some bad things about cosplay?
Bad things. It's really not that comfortable. It's very expensive. And sometimes you don't take care of yourself at a con, bodily, mentally, spiritually, like you should, because you're so caught up in the moment. So the bads are you get a little bit distracted from your basic human needs.
You're like, here, drink
because
water.
You're so excited. Yeah, and they're like, I can't, my lipstick will get messed up. No, you need to drink water because you need to stay alive, like that kind of thing.
Especially in Arizona.
It's easy to forget that you're a human being when you're dressed up as something else magical.
Yeah,
so
especially in Arizona where you have to hydrate. Otherwise you'd pass out. Well, Amber, I appreciate you coming onto the show, and you've been a delight to talk to, and I appreciate it so much. And is there anything you'd like to say to your fans who might see the rebroadcast of this?
Stay awesome. And if you guys want to come and join me on Twitch sometime, I would love to have you guys, because again, that's like my main thing that I'm doing right now. You can find me on Twitch, which I know that we're streaming to right now, at AmberSkies TV. So it's spelled basically the same way as down here, AmberSkies. Just replace the word cosplay with TV, and you will find me. And you can make stuff with me, paint with me, and play World of Warcraft, and have really silly dwarven accents as I tromp around the universe. I don't know. Come join me sometime. I would love to meet you. And hopefully, I will get to see all your beautiful faces in person again soon at the shows that'll eventually come back into our world.
Awesome. And with that, thank you so much. Take care.